You know that feeling when you're just sitting there staring at your screen or maybe just staring at the ceiling and you feel completely overwhelmed?
Oh, yeah, like this deep, low-level panic.
Exactly. You're anxious about the future. You feel stuck in this personal or, professional rut. And no matter how much you try to optimize your life,
Or how many productivity hacks you read.
right, you read all the blogs, you download the apps, but there's just this lingering sense of exhaustion. It's a very specific, a very modern kind of burnout. We have more information than ever before, but somehow we have less clarity.
We're drowning in data, but starving for actual wisdom.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And ironically, the most effective toolkit for fixing this modern paralysis, it actually comes from a 5,000-year-old battlefield. So today we're taking a deep dive into the psychological framework of ancient texts. We're looking at the Bhagavad Gita and its application by modern practitioners.
Which is such a rich source.
It really is. The mission today is to extract that ancient toolkit to help you bypass all this information overload and find real clarity.
And we should probably establish right away that looking at the Gita purely as a theological document, it really misses a huge part of its value.
Right. People hear ancient texts and think it's just going to be abstract poetry.
Exactly. But when you actually get into the text, it reads like a highly practical, incredibly detailed manual for human psychology. It's about decision-making, crisis management.
Yeah.
It's basically a framework for how to function when everything around you feels like it is completely falling apart.
That is the major paradigm shift here.
Yeah.
It is rigorously practical. You have business leaders, philosophers, historical figures who leaned heavily on these texts.
Oh, absolutely. What's fascinating here is that J. Robert Oppenheimer, the father of the atomic bomb, he famously studied the Gita deeply.
Right, to make sense of duty and the immense weight of his choices.
Yeah, and today it's analyzed in top universities globally because it provides this step-by-step framework for mastering the human mind.
Okay, let's unpack this. To get that mastery, to fix the anxiety we all feel, we first have to understand the mechanics of why we are getting so anxious in the first place.
Right. And the setting of the Gita is perfect for this. It takes place on the historical battlefield of Kurukshetra.
Where the great warrior Arjuna is standing between two massive armies.
And he is completely paralyzed. He's gripped by anxiety, completely confused about what he is supposed to do. But the text makes it clear that this isn't just about a historical war.
Right.
That battlefield, it's your career. It's your finances. It's, your daily commute.
It's the daily grind. Arjuna's paralysis is the exact same paralysis we feel when we are faced with a massive life choice or just the overwhelming pressure of our own expectations.
Exactly.
And the text identifies a very specific trap we fall into on this battlefield. It's the trap of the outcome.
Yes, the outcome trap.
We panic and we burn out because we obsess over the results of our actions rather than the action itself.
Which totally makes sense when you consider that we live in a society that judges absolutely everything by the outcome.
Totally. Did you get the promotion?
Did the startup succeed? How many likes did that post get?
Right.
We tie our entire psychological stability to metrics, but the ancient wisdom argues that focusing on the result is actually what destroys your ability to perform.
I was looking at how this framework breaks down any given action, and it's incredibly humbling. It divides the outcome into 5 distinct factors.
Yeah, the 5 factors of action.
Right. So first, you have the doer, the person actually doing the thing. Second is the place, the environment where the action happens. Third is the effort you put in.
Okay.
Fourth is destiny or past karma, which is like the accumulated momentum of previous actions. And fifth is the grace of a higher power or providence.
Right.
It basically reduces your actual hustle, your direct effort, to just 20% of the equation.
Which is a really tough pill to swallow, especially for anyone raised in a hyper-individualistic culture where we are told, we completely control our own destiny.
Yeah, we love the pull yourself up by your bootstraps narrative.
Exactly. And if you are operating under the illusion that your effort is the sole determining factor of success, you are going to be constantly terrified of failing.
But, I have to push back on this a little bit.
Sure.
If my effort is only one of 5 factors, why should I even try? It borders on fatalism, right?
Right.
Think about launching a startup.
Okay, let's use that.
You can have the perfect founder. That's the doer. You can have the perfect market condition. That's the place. You can work 100 hours a week so your effort is maxed out.
Right.
But then some massive macroeconomic shift happens or, a pandemic hits. which falls under destiny or providence, and it just tanks the entire business anyway.
Hmm.
If the other variables can just wipe me out, why kill myself over the effort?
Because the ultimate life hack here is letting go of your attachment to the result precisely because it was never fully in your control anyway.
Oh, I see.
You're pointing out the exact reality the text is trying to wake us up to. You only control the effort.
Right.
When you attach your self-worth and your mental stability to an outcome that relies on global events you don't control, you are actively choosing anxiety. You're basically signing a contract to be stressed.
So the detachment isn't about, like, not caring. It's about recognizing the mathematical reality of the situation.
Yes. It is profound psychological relief. When you detach from the outcome, your actual performance improves because the fear state disappears.
Because you aren't freaking out about whether it's going to fail.
Exactly. You are no longer operating out of the amygdala, the brain's panic center. You can actually access your prefrontal cortex, get into a flow state, and do the work to the absolute best of your ability.
Wow.
The famous verse essentially says, "You have the right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action."
That is so liberating. You do the work because it is the right work to do, not because you're guaranteed a reward.
Exactly.
But this makes me think about the macro scale. If focusing entirely on results causes all this individual anxiety, what happens when an entire society operates this way?
Well, we get the modern mental health landscape. We get an absolute epidemic of burnout.
There is a detail from the sources, specifically from the Bhagavatam, that is just hard to shake. It was written thousands of years ago, and it contains a prediction about the current epoch we are living in.
The Kali Yuga.
Yes, the Kali Yuga, which translates roughly to the age of conflict or hypocrisy. The prediction states that in this specific age, mental distress would be the biggest killer.
Not famine, not physical warfare.
Right, mental anguish,
Mm-hmm.
caused by our chaotic lifestyle choices and our absolute obsession with fleeting outcomes. We're essentially watching a 5,000-year-old sociological prediction play out in real time.
It is chillingly accurate. And if you look at the fundamental shift in how we raise and educate people, the root of this distress becomes so obvious. Historically, the ancient Indian educational model, the Gurukul system, students actually lived with their teachers in an immersive environment. And the curriculum didn't just teach you how to memorize facts or do a trade.
Right.
It taught 64 practical skills for living, which included deep psychological and emotional training.
So they're teaching like survival skills for the mind, how to handle failure, how to process profound grief.
How to navigate the sudden loss of status, yes. Fast forward to today, and our education system, which was largely redesigned during the Industrial Revolution, is hyper-focused on output.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
Get higher marks, pass the standardized test.
Secure the degree, earn a bigger paycheck. We are completely skipping the emotional infrastructure required to handle the inevitable collapse of those things.
It's like modern society is constantly upgrading our hardware. We're getting new degrees, faster technology, better coding skills.
Right.
We have the most advanced processing power in human history, but we are completely ignoring the operating system.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, if your underlying operating system doesn't know how to process basic human duality, like the fact that happiness and distress always follow each other like seasons, then the whole computer is going to crash the moment a virus enters the system.
No matter how expensive the hardware is.
Exactly.
That analogy hits the nail on the head. We have no operating system for the realities of adulthood. When the inevitable crash happens, a divorce, a job loss, a health crisis, people are stunned.
They think something is uniquely wrong with their life.
Exactly, rather than realizing that difficulty is a built-in, guaranteed feature of the human experience.
So how do we patch this operating system? If we weren't taught this in school, what is the active mechanism for building that resilience?
The antidote offered across these texts is tolerance.
Tolerance, okay.
But tolerance here doesn't mean passive suffering. It means recognizing the temporary nature of everything. Today's success is tomorrow's challenge. Building your internal spiritual strength to weather those changes, it's exactly like a physical workout. You don't wait until you are forced to lift a heavy beam off someone in an emergency to start building muscle.
Right, you'd be crushed.
You go to the gym when things are fine. There is a military saying often quoted by modern practitioners. Those who sweat in peace bleed less in war.
Those who sweat in peace bleed less in war. I love that. You have to deliberately stress the system in a controlled way before the real crisis hits.
To understand how to build that strength on a daily basis, we really have to look at the mechanics of karma.
Okay.
It operates a bit like a weighing scale. Imagine a scale with two sides. Side A represents a pure, ethical, intentional life. Side B represents an unethical, impulsive, reactive life.
Okay, got it.
The principle dictates that if side A is heavier, if you are consistently making choices grounded in good values and a solid spiritual foundation, favorable circumstances will naturally manifest for you over time, even if the rest of the world is in total chaos.
Because you're building psychological momentum.
Exactly.
But keeping side A heavy, I mean, that's the daily struggle. Because evolutionary biology and modern culture are constantly throwing weights onto side B.
Oh, constantly.
The texts categorize these roadblocks as the 6 inner enemies. You got selfishness, anger, greed, pride, illusion, and envy. These are the bugs in the operating system.
And of those 6, if we connect this to the bigger picture, envy is highlighted as uniquely destructive. It is the most dangerous of all the inner enemies.
Really? More than anger or greed.
Yes, because it's a toxic, proactive cocktail of all the others combined.
Let's explore why that is. I mean, anger is usually a reaction to a boundary being crossed. Greed is just a base desire for more resources. But envy operates differently.
Envy actively seeks to pull someone else down. It is rooted in illusion. You know, that false scarcity mindset that someone else's success somehow diminishes your own.
Right.
It involves massive pride and selfishness. And psychologically speaking, the worst part about envy is that it doesn't actually harm the target.
No, the person you are envious of usually has no idea.
Right. They are entirely unaffected by your feelings. Instead, the emotion completely corrodes the person harboring it. It is literally like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
So what do you actually do when, say, a colleague gets the promotion you wanted and that visceral wave of envy or anger just hits you? We're human. You can't just pretend the emotion isn't there.
No, and suppressing it is actually the worst thing you can do because it ferments.
Right.
The framework offers a very profound redirection strategy. You don't suppress the emotion, but you also don't act on it destructively. Instead, you use a technique of mental offering.
Mental offering.
Yeah. You take that intense negative emotion, let's say it's a burning anger or deep envy, and you physically visualize taking it and placing it at the feet of a higher principle, the divine or the universe.
You're externalizing it. You are creating cognitive distance.
Exactly.
Instead of saying, I am angry, you were saying, I am experiencing anger and I am holding it over here so it doesn't drive the car.
That cognitive distance is the entire mechanism. It interrupts the neural pathway that connects the emotional trigger to a destructive reaction.
Wow.
You're acknowledging the feeling, you're realizing it's too heavy or toxic for you to process productively in that moment, and you're consciously handing it over. It transforms the emotion from a weapon into an act of surrender.
That is a profound shift. It takes the shame out of feeling negative emotions. You are allowed to feel them, you just have to redirect them.
Yes.
And this concept of offering our emotions, it brings us to the core engine of this entire philosophy. It all comes down to intention, or the Sanskrit word bhava.
Hava, right.
It is not about the grand external gestures you make. The texts argue that the universe only responds to how and why you are doing them.
Intention is the root cause of the action. You can do the exact same physical movement with 2 different intentions, and the psychological and karmic results will be completely opposite.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
There's a story from the sources that illustrates this beautifully, and it involves, of all things, banana peels.
I love this story.
It's the story of an arrogant king named Duryodhana and a humble woman named Vidarani. So Duryodhana wants to impress the divine, Krishna, for purely political reasons.
It's all about optics.
Exactly. So he throws this massive opulent feast. We're talking 56 courses served on solid golden plates. But his intention is driven by pride, ego, and a desire to leverage the relationship. And Krishna completely rejects the food. He refuses to eat any of it.
Because the bhava, the underlying intention, was corrupt. The grand gesture was just empty.
Right. Then Krishna visits the home of Vidarani. She is incredibly poor, but she possesses deep, genuine devotion. She is so overwhelmed with pure love and shock that the divine is sitting in her modest home that she completely loses her focus for a second.
She's just totally flustered.
Yeah, she's trying to peel bananas to feed him, but she is so overcome with emotion that she is accidentally throwing away the actual fruit and handing Krishna the banana peels.
And Krishna eats the peels.
He eats them happily.
Because he isn't consuming the physical object, he is consuming the intention behind it.
That's a profound shift in how we value action. The physical offering was literal garbage, but the internal offering was flawless.
Yes.
The intention is the only thing that actually registers. It
Yeah.
forces you to look at your own daily actions and ask, am I serving up 56 courses of empty gestures at work or in my marriage or with my friends, just going through the motions to maintain an image?
Right.
Or am I operating with genuine, pure intention?
And cultivating that pure intention isn't something that just happens by accident. You have to manufacture it. And the texts are very clear about the mechanics of doing so. You have to start early in the day.
The morning routine.
The state of your mind in the morning dictates the trajectory of your intention for the next 16 hours.
There is a brilliant analogy used by modern practitioners for this. They describe the mind in the early morning as being like wet cement.
Wet cement, yes. When you first wake up, your brain is transitioning out of theta and alpha waves. Your consciousness is highly impressionable. The cement is wet. If the very first thing you do is reach for your phone, scroll through social media, read polarizing news, or check a stressful work email, you are stomping heavy, chaotic boots all over that wet cement.
You are hardwiring a reactive state into your nervous system before you have even brushed your teeth. Those anxious impressions harden, and they set the foundation for your entire day. You have ruined the concrete before it could even dry smoothly.
But if you protect that time, if you start your day with a deliberate practice, whether that is chanting a mantra, engaging in meditation, or simply sitting in quiet, intentional reflection,
You're purposefully smoothing out the cement.
you're setting a foundation of peace and deliberate intention. You anchor yourself so that when the inevitable chaos of the world hits you at 9 a.m., it bounces off a hardened, smooth surface rather than sinking in and dictating your state of mind.
So what does this all mean for you? If you are trying to implement this toolkit tomorrow morning, it is incredibly practical.
Very practical.
First, to lower your baseline anxiety, practice detaching from the outcomes of your work. Focus entirely on the effort. That's the only variable you actually control.
Right.
Second, accept that life is a duality and start building your emotional tolerance during peacetime. Sweat in peace. Third, watch out for those inner enemies, particularly envy. When it hits, create cognitive distance by mentally offering it upward rather than letting it ferment.
Hand it over.
Yes. And finally, guard your morning mind. Treat it like wet cement and establish a foundation of pure intention before the world even gets a vote.
It is a complete recalibration of how you move through the world. But I want to leave you with one final story from this framework, something that challenges our basic assumptions about our own flaws.
I love a good paradigm shift.
What is it?
We just spent time discussing the inner enemies, and we generally assume a trait like greed is purely negative, right?
Sure, it's a bug in the code that needs to be completely eradicated.
Right. But the texts tell a fascinating story about a dacoit, a literal forest bandit named Govardhan.
A highway robber. Exactly. This bandit hears a rumor that the divine, Krishna, wanders through a specific forest wearing unbelievably beautiful, priceless jewels.
Okay.
Now, Govardhan doesn't care about spirituality or philosophy or intention. He is fueled by pure, unadulterated, obsessive greed. He wants those jewels to make himself rich.
Right.
So he begins hunting through the forest day and night, desperate to find the divine solely so he can mug him.
So he's using maximum effort for the absolute worst intention.
Exactly. But here is the profound twist in the mechanics of the mind. Because his brain was so intensely, constantly, and obsessively focused on the divine, even though the initial catalyst was entirely corrupt, that unbroken mental connection acted as a purifier.
Oh, wow.
The sheer, unrelenting intensity of his focus eventually transformed his consciousness. By the time he finally encountered what he was looking for, his heart and mind had been completely purified by the constant meditation. He achieved total spiritual liberation, and he didn't even want the jewels anymore.
That is wild. The very trait that made him a criminal was the exact vehicle that saved him, just because of where he pointed it.
Which raises an incredibly important question for you to ponder. What if your biggest, most obsessive flaw, your ambition, your stubbornness, your relentless drive, isn't something you need to destroy or feel ashamed of?
Yeah.
What if it is simply a massive reserve of intense energy that you just need to redirect toward a higher purpose?
They completely flips the script on how we view our own shortcomings.
Yeah,
It's not about killing the energy, it's about aiming it.
exactly.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. The next time you find yourself staring at the ceiling, feeling overwhelmed by all the variables you cannot control, remember the wet cement, remember the battlefield, And maybe ask yourself where your own intense energies are currently pointed. See you next time.